Hello Raptors fans, and welcome back to Raptors Report. I'm your host Julian, and today we're going to be looking at the Toronto Raptors season thus far. Now, the Toronto Raptors have been hovering around 500 for pretty much the whole season. And for every amazing win they've had a pretty catastrophic loss to go along with it. And the reason for that, in my opinion, is the roster construction. Now, there are a number of issues with the roster, in my opinion. The first being that they don't have enough shooting. They have too many redundant pieces. Depth has been an issue. There are a couple of reasons that the Raptors have not looked as good as they could have. On the flip side, Scottie Barnes has been a revelation. He's been amazing. Pascal Siakam has really come on as of late and had some big performances. OG Anunoby has been playing the 3-and-D role pretty much to perfection, and Dennis Schroeder has been really a shrewd signing by the front office after, some question marks during the offseason. Now, the big picture question in my mind, and I think for a lot of people online, is whether the Raptors are stuck in no man's land, and I think that that's a valid concern. So I'm wondering if there's a trade on the horizon to pick a direction, maybe toward the playoffs or maybe to go back into the lottery. I've been saying that for a couple of seasons now, but who knows? This might be the year. On the coaching front, Darko has looked, I would say, decent, especially for a rookie head coach. And although his offense has not really materialized or, lived up to the billing that he created at the beginning of the season, I think that he has done a good job motivating the players. I think that his coaching philosophy and the way that he, the positive energy that he brings has been a breath of fresh air. And I think that a lot of the players have really responded to it quite well. And also one of the things to note is that he has tightened up the rotation. So a lot of players who were getting minutes at the beginning of the season and have not measured up have, been reined in slightly. The other guy that I think you should keep an eye on, who's new to the roster, is Jalen McDaniels. Yikes. Anyway, there's a lot to talk about. So without any further ado, let's jump right in. Well, we're about a month into the season, so I think it's a decent time to talk about what we've seen from the Raptors so far. With some impressive wins and some very disappointing losses, the Raptors have been, as their record suggests, pretty mediocre this season. As predicted, the Raptors are a good defensive team, but the offense, particularly the half-court offense, has looked lackluster, anemic, some might even say downright moribund. One of the main talking points during the offseason was the Raptors' philosophical change when it came to the offense. Less ISOs, more ball movement, more cuts, screens, off-ball action. Masai Ujiri said that the team would be less selfish. Darko Rajakovic explained how quicker decision-making in his .5 offense would keep defenses off balance and lead to easier shots. Through the first part of the season, we have seen the ball movement, screenplay, and faster decision-making that was promised, but the offense has not responded in a positive direction. Obviously, some of that can be attributed to learning a more complex system, but as I mentioned in the previous episode, a lot of it comes down to the construction of the roster. One of the most important ingredients to a successful offense in the modern NBA is shooting. Year in, year out, the teams with the best offenses in the league have guys who can shoot the three ball. Guards, forwards, and increasingly bigs. It's easy to look at some of the things these good offensive teams do. The plays they run, the schemes, but the shooting adds the oxygen, the space, and often the payoff to the plays you're trying to run. On offense, the Raptors are suffering from a case of too many chefs, not enough line cooks. Scottie Barnes, Pascal Siakam, and surprisingly Dennis Schroeder are all talented ball handlers and decision makers who thrive attacking the basket and making plays with the ball in their hands. Using any of Siakam, Scottie, or Schroeder as off-ball spacing is kind of like using a Porsche to haul construction material. Technically, you can use it for that purpose, but the question is, why? I don't want to harp on the team's deficiencies and be a huge negative Nancy, but I figured that it's worth pointing out how the offense has looked and what the key reasons are for the Raptors' struggles there. But mediocre is not bad, and there are a bunch of positive things to point out. For the season's biggest positive, you don't have to look very hard. Scottie Barnes has been having the third-year leap everyone hoped for, making strides in almost every category. His defense has been great, as he's been given the freedom to roam defensively instead of being shackled to defending the point of attack, and as a result, his steals and especially blocks have exploded. On offense, he's shot the ball better from almost every location. He's had a number of massive scoring nights, big assist nights, and clutch performances. If Scottie continues this strong play over a larger sample size, many of the issues facing the Raptors, especially long-term, become far less important. Another positive development has been the play of Dennis Schroeder. When the Schroeder signing was made, I was not completely sold. Schroeder had a strong playoff run on the Lakers last year, and then won the MVP of the FIBA World Cup, so there were reasons for optimism, but his long career of what I would describe as average play in the NBA did not scream breakout player. But Schroeder has been something of a revelation for the Raptors. Schroeder's assist rate has shot up to almost 8 per game, and he's been doing yeoman's work, helping provide spacing for the offense by hitting almost 40% of his threes, which have mostly come above the break on catch-and-shoot attempts. He's also given the Raptors a very solid point-of-attack defender who has managed to limit penetration on the perimeter, preventing the Raptors' defense from getting bent out of shape early in the shot clock. One thing to keep an eye on is whether the three-point shooting holds up over the course of the season, because he's currently shooting a career-high percentage from that distance. OG Anunoby has also had a very good start to the season. He's shooting the ball well, finishing inside, and playing the extremely tough defense that he's known for. Poeltl has also had what I would call a solid start to the season, especially defensively, but has not had the standout offensive performances that really wowed me last season. Siakam is having a very hot and cold start to the season. Early in the season, it appears that the coaching staff did not know how to integrate him into the offense other than having him camp at the three-point line. Since then, he's had some very strong games, especially recently. But it appears that the coaching staff is simply letting him play his game the way he's accustomed to, isolations, post-ups, clear-outs, etc., rather than him finding his stride within the context of Darko's scheme. The starters as a unit have a positive rating, which is encouraging, but the play of the bench has been unexciting to downright terrible. Without going into things too deeply, the bench is neither consistent offensively nor acceptable defensively. They don't appear to have much of an identity, and as a unit they have been a net negative, often losing the leads that the starters have created. This has been a refrain that has been repeated so often over the past 4 years that it's hard to forgive the front office for having yet another season where the bench has dragged the team down. On the plus side, Malachi Flynn has had somewhat of a resurgence, scoring in double digits multiple nights and shooting the ball well from the perimeter. The idea has always been to develop players off the bench in order to have a pipeline of players and assets to stay competitive in the long run. Unfortunately, this process has simply not been working for the Raptors over the past few years, and it might be a good time to make a trade to shake things up and perhaps add more talent there. Overall, it's hard to be too positive or negative when the team has been so solidly mediocre, but there are things to be excited about and lots more Raptors basketball to watch, so I can't complain. And that's this week's episode. I've really enjoyed watching the Raptors play because it has been so up and down, so heart-wrenching to watch some of these victories and losses. It's been great TV. On the other hand, they are pretty mediocre, so it hasn't been amazing to watch as a fan of the team. But I'm really curious to hear what you guys have to say. I always enjoy hearing from Raptors fans about their thoughts on the direction of the team. Are they moving in the right direction? Are they moving in the wrong direction? That sort of thing. So please let me know here in the comments, but also on Twitter or X or whatever the hell you call it these days, because I do love hearing from other Raptors fans. And as always, thank you for tuning in to Raptors Report. And I hope you tune in again next week. Cheers.